moment that Sylvanas Windrunner shattered the veil between life and death over Icecrown's citadel, an entirely new world of cosmic mysteries presented itself for the first time. Shadowlands wouldn't see players traveling to a different continent, a different planet, or even a different time, but instead we would dive headlong into the afterlife. The opening questline of Shadowlands allows players to step through the veil and enter the Maw, a broken dimension whose only purpose is to serve as an eternal prison for any soul deemed too evil even for the afterlife. This realm is ruled by the Jailer, an immensely powerful being that holds dominion over the energies of death itself. And just like all the other tormented denizens of the Maw, he is eternally bound to it, unable to escape, imprisoned for eternity in Torghast, the Tower of the Damned. Until now. In the Sanctum of Domination raid coming in patch 9.1, Torghast will be broken, and with it, the very chains that have held the Jailer for uncountable eons. His plans for the future of the cosmos will finally begin to unfold. But these new story developments still seem to leave us with more questions than answers. His motivations remain mysterious. Why does he lay claim to the world soul of Azeroth? Was the Lich King the first time that he made his presence known in the mortal world? Or could there be more to the story? His kin, the Eternal Ones, have been hesitant to share information, stating only that if the Jailer were to ever escape his prison, and collect each of their corresponding and mysterious sigils, he would gain access to forbidden knowledge, some dark secret that the First Ones sought to hide from the Pantheon of Death.
They will see. Death was never meant to be chained.
I began investigating the many connections between Azeroth, the Shadowlands, and other cosmic forces that have threatened the precarious balance of life and death in the past. And in the frozen wastes of Dragonblight, I stumbled upon something that appears to have been all but forgotten. The bones of Galakrond, the mightiest proto-dragon to ever plague the skies of Azeroth, and, perhaps more importantly, the first recorded instance of undeath on a mortal world. Chronicle Volume 1 describes Galakrond as an enormous creature. So enormous, in fact, that the beating of his wings could flatten entire forests. He was also consumed by an insatiable hunger. His hunger became so great that he turned to cannibalism, consuming smaller proto-drakes and mutating ever larger, ever more corrupted. Galakrond consumed not only the physical forms of these smaller drakes, but their life essence as well, or as we now know it to be called, their anima. Chronicle also says that death energies wafted off of his jagged hide, reanimating dead matter. The Shadowlands are the source of all true necromantic magic, and the domination that Galakrond may have fallen prey to is not meant to exist outside of the Shadowlands. Devos' reaction to the Lich King on Azeroth confirms this.
The runes on his blade were unmistakable. This dark agent runs free on a mortal world with the power of the Maw itself in hand. Our realm is imperiled.
As Galakrond mutated further, misshapen limbs and dozens of eyes sprouted across his gargantuan form, a description that evokes images of the Void and the nightmarish old gods. Perhaps the Jailer allied himself with Yogg-Saron, or perhaps the Void simply saw one of their infinite opportunities to exercise their influence alongside him. Xalatath confirms that the Void was at least aware of Galakrond, stating in Legion that a powerful dragon could be a powerful tool. Alas, gone are the days of Galakrond. Before Shadowlands, it was assumed that the undead and the Scourge were nothing more than a tool for the Burning Legion to use to weaken our world for their coming invasion. But we now know that it was the Jailer himself who channeled domination magic through the Lich King, Frostmourne, and the Helm of Domination, subtly at first, but always present, never more than a cold, compelling whisper in the darkness. These artifacts of the Shadowlands were forged by the Primus, stolen, and smuggled into Azeroth through the twisting nether by the nefarious dreadlords. Even the plague of undeath, which ravaged Lordaeron throughout the Third War, finds its origins within the Shadowlands, a creation of the Maldraxian House of Plagues. But what if the domination of the Lich King wasn't the first time that the Jailer's power was allowed to pass through the Veil? What if the Jailer, prior to his banishment by the Eternal Ones, attempted to channel the infinite power of the Maw into Galakrond, driving his insatiable need to consume, and, much like the Lich King, providing him with the ability to unleash legions of undead upon a mortal world? This would have been considered an affront not only to the Eternal Ones of the Shadowlands, but the entire cosmic balance of life and death. A betrayal of everything that the mysterious First Ones intended. The Titan Keepers and Stoneborn, who were busy ordering Azeroth at the time, didn't even notice the massive Galakrond. And why would they? We know that the Titans literally programmed their keepers to function within the bounds of the mortal world. If you look at Mother from Battle for Azeroth, she speaks like something closer to a computer than she does a living, breathing being.
Greetings. I am the Matron of Tenacity, Herald of Endless Research. Designation, Mother.
How could the Titan Keepers be expected to address something that, according to their programming, should not even exist? Only one Keeper recognized the threat that Galakrond posed. Tyr, the greatest contribution that the Titan Agromar ever left upon the surface of Azeroth, was hailed as the mightiest of the Titan Keepers. Interestingly, Agromar only created one other being in the Warcraft mythos before he was struck down by Sargeras, and that being was Grond, a manifestation of the primal elemental energies of Draenor, woven into existence in order to stand against Draenor's largest threat, the Everbloom. Agromar sought balance, as the existence of the Everbloom on Draenor shows us that even life, when left unchecked, can be equally as destructive as the forces of death. This recontextualizes the role of Tyr somewhat, because much like Grond, his existence would serve as the perfect counterweight to the all-consuming power of unchecked cosmic forces. Tyr also held mysterious Titan artifacts called Sparks. The origin of these artifacts is unknown, but the events of Dawn of the Aspects by Richard Knack show us that these sparks have the ability to manipulate the magic of memory, a magic that, for some reason, the Jailer cannot use. Unable to rouse his fellow keepers to action, Tyr turned instead to the proto-drakes themselves, seeking out the 5 most powerful of their kind to aid him in stopping Galakrond. Malygos, Alexstrasza, Neltharion, Ysera, and Nosdormu banded together under Tyr's guidance and thwarted Galakrond. His gigantic corpse crashed into the desolate plains of Dragonblight, and there he remains to this day, a frozen testament to the power of unity among Azeroth's mortal races. As Azeroth's foremost protector, Tyr unleashed the unbridled fury of the Titans upon Galakrond, beating him about the face and neck with his mighty hammer, until, with one gnashing bite, Galakrond took the Keeper's hand. It would eventually be remade with pure shining silver, the namesake of the Paladin Order of the Silver Hand, the very same order to which Uther and Arthas once belonged.
With me, boy. You may be the prince, but I'm still your superior as a paladin. As if I could forget.
Tyr's injuries spurred his fellow Titan Keepers to action. They convened at Wyrmrest Temple to empower these 5 proto-drakes and charged them with the immense task of protecting all life on Azeroth. Odin was the only Titan Keeper that opposed the decision to create the dragon aspects. Instead, he would subjugate Helya, using her to impose his own control over the forces of death, by forcing her to create the Valkyr and tasking them with delivering the souls of noble warriors to his new realm, the Halls of Valor. Perhaps Odin knew that the Jailer was behind the transformation of Galakrond. This could be why Odin traded his eye with the Loa of Death, Moizala, in an attempt to remain apprised of the goings-on within the Shadowlands, ready to pit his Vrykul armies against the Jailer's forces, should the need ever arise. Although, according to warrior artifact lore from Legion. When Odin first used that eye to peer into the maw, the valiant keeper, second in strength only to Tyr, and second to none in bravado, was afraid. Given what we now know about the forces of life in the Warcraft universe, it's possible that the goddess Elune had much to do with the original empowerment of the 5 dragon aspects. According to the book Thrall, Twilight of the Aspects, the blue dragon Kalikos could only be made into the new aspect of magic during the Embrace, an extremely rare celestial alignment of Azeroth's twin moons, the White Lady and the Blue Child. Elune's heavy association with Azeroth's moons has been a staple of Warcraft lore since vanilla. In the Embrace, an event which found no mention in either Chronicle or Dawn of the Aspects, has now received its own short story in the new book, Folk and Fairy Tales of Azeroth. Although any speculation on her specific role in the lore going forward is definitely a topic for another video. So what do you think? Would you be excited to see the jailer return to Northrend to potentially raise his greatest weapon? Or maybe the tangential relationship between Elune and the Dragon aspects could be dropping little breadcrumbs that could lead us to a Dragon Isles expansion. I don't know. Could be. But there is one more thing I wanted to talk about before I close this video out. And that is why I decided to make this video in the first place. I could have made a video about anything. I play a lot of different games. I watch a lot of different movies. But why I made a WoW lore speculation video in the first place. World of Warcraft is in decline. It's sad to say, but the reality is that the development of the game has become so hyper-focused on expanding the map and implementing new systems in every expansion that everything that came before is forgotten, left out, tossed out even. To the point where sometimes, if you look at BFA, players were excited for BFA to be over because of how much they despised the Azerite system. And with Shadowlands, we might be looking at the same thing with covenants and conduits and all of that. And Torghast. Imagine how cool it would be if every time a content patch was dropped for current content, it came with 1 or 2 revamps of old world zones. Updated stories and visuals. Not huge revamps. You don't have to add dungeons. You don't have to add raids. Just care for your world, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Because that would improve the experience not only for new players who are coming in for the first time. They now get to see something that looks and feels fresh. And old players are incentivized to return to that content and experience it in a new way. It's a way of reinvesting in the world that they've already built rather than directing players away from it towards each new expansion. Because what happens then is everybody just rushes through their leveling and questing experiences so that they can actually enjoy the game. And that's not the fault of the player. I mean, they literally push a boost with every expansion so that you can just get right into it. It's frustrating. But while I don't know what's next for World of Warcraft or how long its future really is, what I do know is that I had a shit ton of fun making this video, and I will make more just like it because I want to give people the opportunity to fall in love with the game in the same way that I did. I didn't come to care about World of Warcraft because of the player power systems and throwaway loot mechanics. I came to care about it because of the richness and fullness of the world it presented. I was 12 years old when I played WoW for the first time, and I still remember what it felt like, that sense of discovery and exploration. And every new zone you walked into felt enormous and exciting. Because now you get the opposite. When an expansion is added, it doesn't make the game feel bigger. It makes it feel smaller. It's limiting you to this new sandbox that's been presented rather than reinvesting in the rest of the fucking playground. So, if you enjoyed this video, maybe stick around. There's definitely more where that came from. And in the meantime, maybe check out some of these other small lore creators that I've come to enjoy very much. I consume a lot of World of Warcraft content on YouTube. Probably an embarrassing amount, to be honest. But with that, I'm out.